Recht vanaf de Blizzard booth op Gamescom in Köln en Overwatch. Daar gaan we het over hebben. Overwatch. Een aantal jaren geleden, toen de game naar voren kwam, ik weet nog wel, dat was een BlizzCon waarvan ik hoopte dat Warcraft 4 eraan kwam, of een nieuwe Warcraft. En toen kwam Overwatch eraan en toen zei iedereen, ja nee, het is wel tof, maar ja. En toen hadden we het er al over van, ja, dat Overwatch, een beetje e-sports. Gaat dat wel een succes worden? Gaat het wel lukken? Krijgen zij, Blizzard, een voet tussen die e-sports games als een Counter-Strike, een League of Legends, een Dota, die toen al zo groot waren, om daar weer zo'n multiplayer game tussen te zetten. En ook nog eens een keer op de consoles, iets wat Blizzard nooit deed. En ik gaf toen aan dat ik vertrouwen had in Blizzard, dat die over het algemeen als iets niet goed is, eigenlijk ook een game niet uitbracht, maar ja, ze hadden nog nooit een shooter gemaakt. Ja, oké, het was niet mijn type game qua graphics, qua characters, dus ik wist het niet. Nou ja, goed, zo zie je ook maar weer dat ik ook niet altijd weet wat succesvol wat gaat zijn, want Overwatch is inmiddels natuurlijk een gillend succes. 30 miljoen spelers wereldwijd. Dat vond ik dan weer een reden om, toen ik de kans kreeg om een aantal van de topmensen van het Overwatch-team, die er ook vanaf het begin af aan bij zijn geweest, aan de tand te voelen over de game. En ik wilde gewoon van hun weten van hoe hebben ze die game opgebouwd. Zijn ze verrast door het succes? Ja, hoe zit het ook weer met dat begin met Titan? Die game die gecanceld was en waarvan men zegt dat dat eigenlijk de basis was voor Overwatch. Is dat verhaal waar? Hoe doen ze dat met die heroes? Kunnen ze heroes nog steeds meer toevoegen? Gaan ze heroes weghalen? Al dat soort vragen. Een kijkje echt in het ontstaansproces. Vanaf het begin, vanaf de eerste code tot aan het enorme succesverhaal van het nu is. Dat wil ik gewoon weten. En daarvoor gaan we weer eens een hokje in, een peeshokje. En gaan we hopelijk zo'n 20 minuten een tof interview afnemen met 2 van de belangrijkste developers die aan Overwatch hebben gewerkt.
I'm on top of the world!
First of all, can you introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Tim Ford. I am one of the lead gameplay programmers on Overwatch.
Hi, I'm Andrew Boyd. I'm a senior producer for the Overwatch team.
Okay, well, is it possible for you to bring me along in the process of figuring out what Overwatch is and how it became that big success that it's now?
I wish I could tell you how it became a big success. If I could replicate that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be...
But I can certainly speak to how it formed. I mean, we started with a very, very small team.
Yeah.
And with some really amazing concept art done by our assistant art director, Arn Sang, as well as some great ideas from folks like one of our principal game designers, Jeff Goodman. And we very quickly landed on this idea of this over-the-top team-based hero shooter that the entire team fell in love with pretty much immediately. Mm-hmm. So much so that it really, once we had the first version playable, once we could really get something on screen, it took no time at all for that freight train to get going, and we really were able to add a whole bunch of stuff real quick all the way through ship.
Yeah, the story says that you started with one hero.
Yeah, well, so we started with Tracer, and actually, you want to talk about the first Tracer prototype?
So the very first Tracer prototype, I think she was running around in a grid world, right? So it's just basically a box, right? And if she looked at something, they would hop up in the air.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, just laser eyes. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, we hadn't written the tech to play death animations or anything with the death rules, so we still had health as a concept. We didn't have a UI to draw the health. You would just shoot someone with your laser eyes, and when they died, you'd reset their health and launch them into the sky, and then when they came back down again, they're ready to go.
Is that always how games start, with some ID, and probably in the end it's a totally different product, but you're just fiddling around with stuff?
Yeah, I can't speak for all games. I can certainly speak for how Blizzard works and how the Overwatch team has worked. Iteration's key, and I think iteration starts from the beginning. You learn a lot about your game when you have that first playable version. It's cool to have the concept art, it's cool to have a story, it's cool to have kind of high-level paper design, but you really can't make clean decisions about what direction the game should go in until you have something you can play. So getting that first prototype working, honestly, within months from when we started was key. And like I mentioned, the train kept running after that. Like we couldn't be stopped.
Okay, then there's the whole story about another game for the consoles called Titan, which was cancelled, and that there's parts of Titan that is used in Overwatch. Maybe you can tell something about that?
Yeah, well, I can certainly say the team was very hungry when we started on Overwatch. Most of the people on the team when we started were folks who had been working on Titan. I can't speak obviously in too many details about Titan. I'm sure there's a wonderful documentary in the far-flung future.
Yeah, that's why I ask it, because everybody wants to know.
In terms of like the dovetail from Titan into Overwatch, there were a handful of mechanics and a handful of concepts, but a very, very small slice of what we had done in Titan made its way into Overwatch. I can certainly say as a technologist, we looked at the code that we had for the game that was Titan, and we looked at the problem we had for the game that was Overwatch.
Yeah.
And we were able to keep a handful of things, but really we had to go back to the drawing board and really rethink how we were going to kind of solve this problem of this online team-based shooter.
Yeah, that's also a part of game development that lots of people don't see. It's like literally like 1, 2, 3 years of hard work just down.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, the work is gone. Obviously, a lot of the code and assets and audio and art were gone, but you don't lose the knowledge, thankfully, and that helps.
You don't lose the knowledge and you don't lose the team, right? And so we all went through a period and we all grew and learned from that. So, I mean, that's really, like out of that core team that we built at the start of Overwatch, that's really the core of the team that's there today.
Yeah.
I will say that it was thrilling to kick off Overwatch really soon after that. As even when you come off of a failure like Titan, and certainly now in retrospect, when I think about how successful Overwatch has been, I actually think back to that time. I'm sure at the moment I was terrified, but I think back to that time of hopefully, right? And to work with such a small team that was so talented and deliver something so quickly was really, we needed that. We needed a reminder that we actually are semi-competent game developers.
Before Overwatch, Blizzard was a developer that made really great PC games. For the last year, you tried to get a foothold on console.
Yeah.
Why is it not possible for a PC developer just to make, like, you make great games for the PC and then you make a great game for the console? It's not that easy.
No,
why?
I wish. Well, the input device is obviously the key thing, and the output device, so the TV, and you have to adapt your game to work with that. So that's your fundamental physical differences, and that's pretty huge. We're fortunate that we live in an era, like a post-Halo era, or post-GoldenEye era, if you want to go deeper, where the folks have figured out how to make console shooters. So we're lucky that we landed on a genre that could translate to both. And we very much, as in the design, stand on the shoulders of giants, we also do so when it comes to console. So we were very fortunate that we had kind of our brothers over at Infinity Ward and Treyarch and Sledgehammer Games, who had all that experience at Call of Duty, that they could share their insights with us and help us kind of solve some of the controller problems. We actually took a bunch of the code that they used for their controller and brought it to our game. But invariably we had to adapt it because their game is much, much different than Overwatch. But it was still great to have their insights. Also from a the good and bad news, technologically speaking, about console. The good news is it's just a PlayStation 4 and just an Xbox One. Yeah. As opposed to PC, where it's this massive strata of different, different configurations. The bad news is it's not as powerful as a PC that would cost twice as much. Yeah. So we spent a ton of energy. In fact, most of my 2015 was spent just optimizing for console. Okay. And it's cool. Again, as from a game development standpoint, that's rad because it also optimizes PC. So it makes the performance better for everything.
Okay. Is there
those
also
where the challenges are?
Is there also, that's the technical part. Is there something like a different state of mind of a console gamer and a PC gamer?
PC gamers like a lot more control.
Okay.
So, and you can see it in the game. Not just like moment-to-moment controls while you're playing Overwatch, but look at the options menu on console, look at the options menu on PC, right? And it's not a surprise. Although honestly, I made that assumption going in, as I worked a lot, and so did Andrew, on some of the UI stuff. Invariably, we wound up adding like a half a dozen or more options to just the gamepad alone. So console players don't mind having a bunch of control as well. But it was the PC players that were the ones putting pressure on us on the forums to add FOV sliders and all sorts of graphics settings.
Yeah, and I think back to your earlier question, like when you're approaching the design and you're approaching the feel of playing the game on console or PC, you're looking at it a little bit differently, and you have to, I think, you have to understand what you're working with, and you really have to spend time looking at things from that perspective or using that platform in order to make the game work well on that platform.
Okay. What were the influences, graphics-wise or gameplay-wise, when you started with Overwatch? Like, were there some type of comics, or it should be like into the Blizzard world? You know, you have a certain type of characters, or movies, series on TV, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we draw inspiration from everything around us. I mean, we immerse ourselves in like the sorts of games that we play, the sorts of movies we love, and the sorts of comics that we read. So, like, you know, it's all over the place. Yeah.
And how did you get? Because it was the first time you made a shooter. Of course, well, then the Call of Duty guys were a big help.
We're all fans of shooters, and there's a handful of folks on the team who actually did have experience before they worked at Blizzard working on shooters, so we weren't going in totally blind, but we entered into the space very cautiously and humbly, knowing that the folks who've established themselves in the shooter space have been doing so for decades. Most of the big hits out there have been around for decades. So we recognize that we stand on the shoulders of giants, and we looked at how different companies solve different shooter problems. We played a lot of shooters. We focused on how the top shooters really spend a lot of time getting the moment-to-moment feeling right, making the guns feel right, making shooting someone feel right, making you yourself get shot read really well. Animation, character silhouettes, level design. You'll notice very few of our levels have like red walls because we reserve red to outline for your enemies.
Okay,
things like that you really take for granted until you really immerse yourself in that problem space and fly through it. So.
Why was it important for you to have a narrative in a multiplayer game? This is, for me, I'm a really FIFA or Call of Duty type of gamer. For me, a narrative doesn't matter. You know, I just want to shoot and score points. But you did a narrative in it.
Well, I think like we don't have, I'd say, the sort of traditional like campaign narrative that you might see in another shooter. We do a lot of world building, and a lot of our narrative takes place in other media, right? So that's through the animated shorts, the IGC, like the that we showed this week, and through comics and the rest of that work. So I think it gives you a greater like sort of attachment and understanding of the characters and the context for what you're doing, and you sort of resonate with them. Like hopefully the characters that we're creating are characters and heroes that people find aspirational and they find something of themselves within. So the comics and the other media really let us explore that in a way that we can in the game.
Yeah, and I can reflect back to another question you asked about the origins of Overwatch. One of the key things, the key mantra we spoke to as we were developing the game was, this is a game about heroes. And that answers a lot of questions for us, both in terms from the Blizzard aesthetic, where Blizzard very much is a hero factory, and when it comes to story. And we realize that you will enjoy this a lot more. You'll enjoy playing Tracer a lot more if you know who she is as a person, where she's from, what she's been through. Yeah. And when you hear her voice, you know what her tone is and what her sense of humor is. And it's always fun for us to come to shows like this and see fans dressed in Unreal cosplay. I saw a 76 and a Reaper meeting their Sombra friend and giving hugs, which isn't character appropriate for 76 to do.
I will say we have an amazing player community, and it's very humbling to see the things that they create. So.
Is that a part of the huge success of Overwatch? Is the recognizability of the heroes? For instance, Lawbreakers is a great game, but the biggest criticism is that you don't have much feeling with the characters. They're just characters, you know. But because you took the choice to make a narrative, people have like they're going cosplay. They probably have prints on the wall with their favorite hero. Is that something you did on purpose, or?
Yes, it was always the goal.
Is that also Blizzard? You know, you have recognizable characters.
Absolutely. I think Chris Metzen has said this repeatedly. That Blizzard is a hero factory, first and foremost. If you look at all of our games, that's really what people remember about them. And Overwatch is no exception. In fact, I think Overwatch is a distilled vision for that. This distilled vision of heroes and characters that are engaging, that our fans can love.
There you are.
Psst, what are you looking at?
The original plan for Overwatch was to really focus on team-based play. You want people to play together. Is this something that you were surprised about or disappointed that people just the individuality of gamers?
Oh no, not at all. No,
Not at all.
we weren't. I wouldn't say we're surprised about it. I do think that the feedback that our players have given us has been useful in terms of how we solve the problem of. Well, it's weird. I need to kind of reframe how you asked that question, because we do kind of a hybrid approach when it comes to ranking you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we certainly rank you on a win or loss, and you win or lose as a team, and then we do a little put a little English on it to bias based on what your actual personal contribution was.
But
to
you
that.
don't have the kill-death ratio, for instance.
We don't surface that. No.
Why? Because that's for like the Call of Duty gamer. It's very important.
Right. Yeah, that was deliberate. So and this is orthogonal to competitive play, but we don't surface the kill-death ratio on a scoreboard that you can see to compare to everybody else, because that's not what's important. That's not what you should be focusing on.
Yeah.
So when you play even team deathmatch in Call of Duty, you're really focused on kill-death ratio, and there's a whole bunch of mechanics, like the kill streaks, for example, are a wonderful game mechanic that celebrates kill-death ratio.
Okay.
So we're not saying that kill-death ratio is a bad thing, but that's what Call of Duty is about.
Yeah.
Whereas for Overwatch, it's about working as a team and winning the match. If we focused on kill-death ratio, then it would obviate a whole bunch of our heroes. Like folks just wouldn't play; they wouldn't be incentivized to play Mercy, Ana, Lucio, Symmetra, or
But
Zenyatta.
I thought that you adding it in now, like team deathmatch and deathmatch mode.
Because deathmatch, the goal is kill-death ratio.
Okay.
Right. So that's why we surface it there.
I'll say team deathmatch and deathmatch, that's one of the modes that we have in the arcade. And the arcade is sort of, it's not part of our core quick play or competitive play. So that gives us a little bit more room to play around with some stuff that we thought we might never do. So,
Like Lucio Ball.
yeah, like Lucio Ball is another great example of that.
Yeah.
Like Lucio Ball was just started off as a prototype. It's like, hey, I wonder if this will work. So
Yeah. Well, Overwatch is a huge success, and did it surprise you that it was that big? Because it's an esports game, which is pretty difficult. Year after year, everybody's trying to be the new Counter-Strike, the new League of Legends, the new Dota, and almost 90% of the games fails because gamers stick to the same games time after time. But Overwatch is the first one, maybe, to get a little bit foothold in the big league. So did that surprise you?
yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's surprising because we're a new IP as well. I mean, the first surprise was that we were successful as a game ever. Like, you're really fortunate if you're as successful as Overwatch has been.
Yeah.
The second kind of degree of that is that was a brand new IP. And you're talking about Counter-Strike, which has been around since I was in college a decade and a half ago.
Yeah.
And Dota 2, which is a sequel to an amazing game that's been around since I was in college a decade and a half ago. These are perennial games that we're being lumped in with, and I hope that we are fortunate to be still talked about 10 years from now, just as Counter-Strike and Dota are.
Are you on a level now that was projected, like install base or the popularity, or you had something like just start out, and if it's like a small game in the beginning with a nice community, that would be okay?
Well, I'm fortunate, I think Andrew is too, that we're in a position where our goal is to make a great game.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry too much. We're protected from kind of the business decisions and business realities. We're given a chance to just be creative as game makers. So I'm happy with what our team has been able to deliver, and I guess the sales have been great. I hope they hit projections.
Yeah, I mean, we have over 30 million players worldwide, which
Yeah.
is just amazing. And yeah, but again, as Tim said, we just mostly focus on making the game.
But the task gets more difficult and complicated because now you have 30 million players, a huge community who asks everything. This hero is not cool. That weapon is too strong. How did you? This is a different type of work you have to do now. Now you're getting an esports game. Millions of players gonna watch it. So did it change your perspective?
I think
More stress?
Yeah, I think it was actually, we got our first taste of that when we went to beta. Really, that's when it became, it went from that game that we had been playing for so long to a game that we, that really belonged to the players. And that's something we believe, that it's really the players' game now. And we do everything we can to try to make it still feel that way. So.
Also interesting, I thought, in some interview I wrote a couple of years ago, that it took you 2 years to balance the game. Why did it take so long? Or maybe it was a shorter period, but it was a long time. Why it's so difficult to balance the game with the heroes, the weapons, the level design, everything?
I'm not sure we're done balancing the game.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. 2 years is an arbitrary number. It's probably taken ever since we had 2 heroes to balance the game. There's a lot of different factors there. I think certainly, invariably, we're going to have to keep balancing the game whenever we introduce a new hero.
It's a never-ending story.
But if we introduce a new hero, that's going to change the balance.
Yeah.
Right. So independent of what players think and what strategies develop, we're going to cause the balance to shift by introducing new heroes. And we keep doing that at a pretty steady clip. Independent of that, it's been really great post-ship to see a large number of players at a wide range of skills engage with the game and provide feedback, because that helps direct us on that balance work. Certainly, between BlizzCon and when we launched, so BlizzCon announced in 2014, and when we launched almost 2 years later in May of 2016, we were balancing during that whole window of time, but we were also adding heroes. That was part of the factor. We were finishing the game. So, yeah, again, I guess I can repeat myself to answer the question. We have always balanced. We will continue to balance.
Is it therefore a nerve-wracking job to add a new hero or 2 new heroes to the game, because you know everything will be upside down and all the community will go?
Yeah. You know, the community has always been free, cavalier to give feedback.
Yeah.
So we're not, I mean, at this point in time, we're not afraid of hearing it, or that we don't dread checking the forums to see what people think of any changes, let alone new hero changes. In fact, we welcome it. Like, that feedback's useful, because there's only 100 of us on the team and a couple thousand of employees at Blizzard, and that's just not enough to provide full feedback for the whole game experience. I think it's exciting to add new heroes. I think it's exciting to make balance changes, even though you're not going to please everybody.
Is it important to keep the game fresh?
It's absolutely important, yeah. Making those changes is really important to keep the game fresh, but also just to demonstrate to our players that we're really dedicated to this thing. Like, we didn't just make this game, put it on a shelf, and walk away. We really want to keep adding and making changes to this game. As long as players stay engaged, we'll stay engaged.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing on that, we're all learning about the game every day, right? And like every time somebody does something new or we see a new strat, like it's some new piece of information that we're using. So.
And you add new heroes, but did you never thought about getting heroes away, out of the game? Just to force people to play other strategies, other heroes. But if you keep adding heroes, after a while you get like 40 euros, 50 euros to choose from. Maybe it's...
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the MOBAs have demonstrated you can have a massive roster. And even though we don't have a bunch of game mechanics that allow for that, I think we are less likely to remove a hero than we are to make fairly radical changes to a hero. So I can give you Symmetra as an example.
Yeah.
Where Symmetra wasn't being played as much as we thought she should have been played. And her balance was a little sideways because she actually had a fairly good win rating despite the fact that she wasn't terribly popular. So we made fairly dramatic changes to her. That's what we're more likely to do.
Yeah,
I can't imagine breaking a fan's heart by taking a hero out of the game.
That's true, but if a hero is too popular, for instance, then you start thinking about, okay, too many people play that hero,
Right.
then something is not balanced.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different reasons people play heroes.
Yeah.
So Genji is hands down our most played hero right now, and it's not because of balance. That can't be because of balance. I think he's actually in a great spot.
Okay.
I think people just have the fantasy of being a cyborg ninja.
Okay, yeah.
Don't we all, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think there's something about Genji that resonates. I think Zarya is a good counterexample. Zarya is being played a lot more now because people have realized how well she fits with the balance of the game and how many great team opportunities she has. And lately, of course, with the meta being as it is at high levels, Zarya is a wonderful solution. But early on in the game, she wasn't.
Okay.
So
yeah.
it's kind of cool that we have a bunch of different ways to make characters popular, not just balance changes, but also engaging with the heroes because they're cool, or engaging with the heroes because they fulfill some sort of fantasy for players.
Last question, maybe the easiest one, or maybe the most difficult one.
Hey, all right.
What is your both favorite hero in Overwatch?
Man, yeah, it's like choosing your favorite kid.
Yeah,
so
well, I want a choice.
I have to choose one.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Lately, because it
Okay.
does change. And I get to play a newer version of Roadhog than the fans do, but Roadhog.
Yeah.
I think even when we changed him a few months ago, I still played him. I love him.
But
But
you're
with
in
the
the
latest changes coming.
Yeah, you're in a position to tweak your favorite character the way you want. So that's awesome.
I'm usually not the one to actually turn the knob to change the tweak, but I don't sit very far from the gentleman who is.
Okay.
I certainly, when we made that change to Roadhog a couple weeks ago,
Okay.
I did not hesitate to go to his desk and go, yeah, it's good. You should ship that. That's a good change.
Okay.
Yeah, I just love to play Reinhardt. There's something about the character, the personality, the way the voice comes across. It's just, oh yeah, he's in the U.S. version, there's a voice actor named Darren DePaul who does an amazing job.
This is Reinhardt, and Reinhardt, and Reinhardt, and Reinhardt, and we are delivering the payload.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for an amazing game. We love it in the Netherlands. So yeah, we keep following you.